Welcome to subreddit Tales Stories. Please like this video and subscribe to subreddit Tales Stories. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. The fluorescent lights of the downtown Seattle office building hummed overhead as Aaron Chin leaned forward in his ergonomic chair, his dark eyes fixed on the multiple monitors. Before him, lines of code reflected in his wire-rimmed glasses as his fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced precision. The clock in the corner of his screen showed 6:30 p.m., but time had lost meaning hours ago as he worked to perfect the latest update for his tech startup's flagship product. That a notification popped up in the corner of his screen: credit card alert purchase at Gucci, $8,570. Aaron's fingers paused momentarily over the keyboard. He minimized the alert with a quiet sigh, just as he had done with the previous notifications from Cartier L. Vaughn and that exclusive spa Allen's frequented through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office. Seattle skyline sparkled against the darkening sky, a testament to his success. 3 years ago, he had been coding from a cramped apartment, surviving on instant ramen and dreams. Now, at 35, he was the CEO of his own tech company, with 50 employees and a product that was gaining serious traction in the market. The office floor was quiet now. Most of his employees had left hours ago, their empty desks visible through the glass walls of his office. Marcus, his lead developer, had stopped by earlier. "Go home, boss," Marcus had said, leaning against the door frame. "The code will still be here tomorrow. Just need to finish this module," Aaron had replied, not looking up from his screen. "We need it perfect for the demo next week." Marcus had shaken his head. "The demo is not for 10 days, and the code's already solid. Besides, aren't you supposed to be leaving for vacation soon?" The vacation Aaron had almost forgotten. Despite Sophie's constant reminders, his wife had been planning this Maldives trip for months, insisting they needed time to reconnect. He wondered if she meant with him or with her phone. His own phone buzz. Now Allen's face lighting up the screen. He picked it up, already knowing what the call would be about. "Hey, honey," he answered, leaning back in his chair. "Aaron, darling." Allen's voice carried the particular tone she used when she wanted something expensive. "Have you booked the presidential suite like I asked?" The resort called to confirm our booking. He glanced at the time again. 8:45 p.m. "I was going to do it tonight, just need to finish up some work first." "The presidential suite books up quickly." There was an edge to her voice now. "I don't want to end up in some standard room like regular tourists." Boney says it's the only way to experience the Maldives properly. Aeon's jaw tightened at the mention of her boss. "Boney's been to this resort." "Oh yes, he goes every year with his wife." Allen's voice brightened noticeably. "That's why he recommended it. The presidential suite has its own infinity pool and butler service. The view is absolutely spectacular." Boney showed me pictures from his last trip. "It's only an extra $7,000 per night." "Only $7,000. Aaron closed his eyes, thinking of his startup's tight budget and the recent rounds of funding he'd been seeking. The company was doing well, but not well enough to justify such extravagant spending. Still, he knew this conversation, knew how it would end. It always ended the same way. "I'll book it now," he said, already pulling up the resort's website. "Perfect, you're the best, darling. Don't work too late. You know how I hate sleeping alone." The call ended before he could respond. Aaron stared at the phone for a moment, then set it face down on his desk. The screen of his laptop reflected his tired face back at him, and for a moment, he saw himself as others might, successful, but somehow diminished, as if he were slowly being worn away. He loved Allen's, had loved her since that charity gala 5 years ago where they first met. She'd been stunning in her red Valentino gown, working the room with effortless grace, while he stood awkwardly by the bar nursing a scotch he didn't really like, but felt he should be drinking. She'd approached him after his fumbling attempt at a tech pitch to some investors, her laugh genuine and warm as she saved him from his own social awkwardness. "You're much better with computers than people, aren't you?" she said, her eyes twinkling with amusement rather than mockery. "That obvious," he replied, grateful for the rescue. "It's charming." She touched his arm then, and he'd felt an electric current run through him. Besides, someone needs to balance out all these smooth-talking businessmen who would know Python from a real Python. He made her laugh again with a terrible coding joke, and somehow that laugh had led to dinner, which led to dating, which led to marriage. Her wealthy family hadn't approved at first. He wasn't from their social circle, didn't have the right connections or pedigree, but his growing success in the tech world had eventually won them over, or at least silenced their objections. Now, 5 years into their marriage, he felt the gap between them widening every time she compared their lifestyle to her colleagues. Every time she mentioned Boney's latest luxury purchase or vacation home, it was like a small paper cut individually insignificant, but they were starting to add up. Aaron shook off the thoughts and focused on booking the presidential suite. The total made him, which the suite cost more per night than his first car, but he entered his credit card information anyway. Allen's would be happy, and that's what mattered. He returned to his code, determined to finish before midnight. The office was silent except for the soft clicking of his keyboard and the distant hum of the city below. On his screen, lines of code grew and evolved, each character bringing him closer to completing the update. This was his world, logical, predictable, where every problem had a solution if you just knew how to find it. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Allen's. "Thank you for booking the suite, darling. Boney says we should try the underwater restaurant while we're there. He's sending me some recommendations. Love you." Aaron stared at the message for a long moment before putting the phone face down again. He turned back to his code, but the characters on the screen seemed to blur together. "Boney says this. Boney says that always." Boney Thompson, CEO of Global Dynamics, had taken Allen's under his wing when she joined the company 3 years ago. At first, Aaron had been grateful. It was a great opportunity for Allen's, and Boney's menhip had accelerated her career. But lately something fell off. The weekly strategy dinners had turned into weekend conferences. The occasional calls had become daily, sometimes lasting late into the night. Aaron had voiced his concerns once during a rare dinner together. "At home, don't you think all these late?" The test one last time, watching the green check marks appear one by one. Satisfied, he committed the changes and shut down his computer. The office was dark now, except for the city lights streaming through the windows. Day gathered his things. His phone buzzed with another text from Allen. "Still at the office? Boney says you work too hard. Come on home soon. Boney says always." Boney. Aaron turned off the lights and locked up, his footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. The night security guard nodded to him as he passed. "Another late night, Mr. Chin. Last one for a while. Joe going on vacation tomorrow. All right, the Maldives, wasn't it? Mrs. Chan must be excited." Aaron managed to smile. "Yes, she is." The drive home was quick. At this hour, the Seattle streets relatively empty. Their penthouse apartment sat high above the city, another concession to Allen's tastes. He wanted something smaller, more practical, but she insisted they needed a place that reflected their status. The apartment was dark when he arrived, except for a single lamp in the living room. Allen's was asleep on the couch, her phone clutched in her hand. Aaron stood for a moment watching her. She looked peaceful in sleep, beautiful in a way that still caught his breath. Sometimes her phone screen lit up with a notification, casting a blue glow across her face. Even in sleep, she was connected to her other life, her work life, her life with Boney. Aaron gently took the phone from her hand, intending to put it on the charger. As he did, a message notification appeared on the screen. "Boney Thompson. Miss you, already can't wait for our next." The rest of the message was cut off, but Aaron felt his heart skip a beat. He almost opened the message, almost gave into the urge to know more. Instead, he placed the phone on the charger and went a shower, trying to wash away the doubt that clung to him like Seattle rain. The Maldives air hit them like a warm, fragrant embrace. As they stepped off the seaplane, Allen's immediately pulled out her phone, snapping photos of the crystal clear water and white sand beach. She looked effortlessly elegant in her flowing white sundress and wide-brimmed hat, while Aaron felt slightly out of place in his casual resort wear. Mr. and Mrs. A staff member approached with a golf cart. "Welcome to Paradise Island Resort. I'm James, your personal butler for the duration of your stay. Please allow me to escort you to the presidential suite." Allen's beamed as they were driven along winding paths lined with palm trees and tropical flowers. "Boney was right about this place," she said, still taking photos. "It's absolutely perfect." Aaron gripped the golf cart's handlebar tighter, but said nothing. He tried to focus on the beautiful surroundings, the impossibly blue ocean, the pristine beach, the lush tropical gardens, but his attention kept returning to his wife, who hadn't stopped checking her phone since they landed. The presidential suite was everything Allen's had wanted, sprawling, luxurious, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking their private infinity pool and the Indian Ocean beyond. The living room alone was larger than Aaron's first apartment, decorated in subtle earth tones that complemented the ocean view. This is the main living area," James explained, leading them through the space. The suite includes a fully equipped kitchen, dining room, office, and master bedroom, with an in-sit spa bathroom. Your private infinity pool and sun deck are through these doors. The pool temperature can be adjusted to your preference. While James gave them a tour, Allen's phone buzzed. Her face lit up as she checked the message. "Boney needs me to look over some Contracts, she said, already walking toward the suite's office area. It'll just take a minute, darling. The Morrison merger won't wait. Just because we're on holiday, I thought we agreed no work on this vacation. Aaron's voice carried an edge. He couldn't quite hide. Alan's turned back, her expression a perfect blend of apology and determination. This is important, Aaron. Not everyone has the luxury of running their own company. Some of us have real deadlines. Before he could respond, she disappeared into the office. Closing the door behind her, James cleared his throat diplomatically. Shall I continue the tour, sir? Aaron shook his head. Thank you, James. The first thing we can manage from here. Once the butler had left, Aaron stood alone in the massive living room surrounded by luxury he paid for, but couldn't enjoy the sound of Alan's voice drifted from the office, her tone animated as she discussed the merger with Boney. He walked out to the infinity pool, stripped down to his swim shorts, and in the water was perfect. Cool enough to be refreshing, but warm enough to be comfortable. He swam laps, trying to lose himself in the rhythm of his strokes, but his mind kept circling back to Alan's and Boney. The weekly strategy dinners, the weekend conferences, the late-night calls. Each instance seemed innocent enough on its own, but together they formed a pattern he couldn't ignore. He'd voiced his concerns once, but Alan's had laughed them off. Don't be silly, darling, she said. Boney's married. He's just being a mentor. Besides, you should be happy he's taking such an interest in my career. An hour passed before Alan's emerged from the office. Aaron had moved to one of the loungers, a tablet in his hands, as he reviewed some code from the office. Sorry about that, she said, not sounding sorry at all. The merger is at a critical stage, more critical than our first vacation in 2 years. She gave him a look that made him feel small. Not everyone has the luxury of running their own company. Aaron, some of us have to answer to people above us. I answered to investors and clients, he pointed out. I just choose to set boundaries. Boundaries don't get you to the top. Alan's checked her phone again. Boney didn't become CEO by setting boundaries. He knows when to seize opportunities. There was again Boney, always Boney. Aaron bit back a response and stood up. I'm going to shower before dinner. Oh, about dinner? Alan's looked up from her phone. Boney actually recommended this amazing restaurant on the other side of the island. He says, we absolutely must try the chef's tasting menu. I've already made reservations, of course. She had, of course. Boney had recommended it. Aaron nodded silently and headed inside, leaving his wife by the pool with her phone and her precious Boney's recommendations. The next few days fell into a pattern. Aaron would wake up early, hoping to spend time with Alan's, only to find her already on calls with the office with Boney. She promised to join him for breakfast after just one more call, but one would turn into 3, and he'd end up eating alone. That he tried to make the best of it, swimming in their private pool, reading books. He'd been meaning to get to even doing some light coding when the loneliness became too much. Alan's would emerge occasionally, always apologetic, but distracted, her phone never far from her hand. You should come snorkeling with me, he suggested one afternoon. The Connor says the reef is amazing. Maybe tomorrow, darling. Boney needs these reports by end of day. She didn't even look up from her laptop. It's 3 a.m. in Seattle. Aaron pointed out Boney's in Singapore for meetings. He's steadied himself against the wall, his fingers pressing into the expendive wallpaper. I know, it's hilarious, really. He's paying for this entire vacation while I'm here enjoying your dick. He's such a loser, Boney, a naive, pathetic loser who thinks working hard and being nice is enough. Alan's cruel laugh cut through Aaron like a knife, his vision blurred, then sharpened with crystal clarity. Everything made sense now. The late nights, the conferences, the Conan phone calls. He'd been such a fool. I should go, Alan's was saying. Don't want to risk him waking up. Yes, I'll call you tomorrow. Love you too. Aaron heard the phone being set down, followed by the sound of running water. He moved swiftly and silently back to bed, his mind racing. The bathroom door opened, spilling light into the bedroom. He kept his breathing deep and regular as Alan slipped under the covers. She fell asleep quickly, but Aaron lay awake, his thoughts crystallizing into a cold, hard plan. The naive, trusting husband was gone, replaced by something harder. Yes, the first rays of dawn painted the ocean gold. Aaron's mind had sharpened into laser-like focus. Each breath his sleeping wife took beside him felt like a mockery. He watched the sun rise through the floor-to-ceiling windows, his face hardened into an expressionless mask. The paradise around them now seemed artificial, a beautiful facade, hiding ugly tears. Much like his marriage, he waited until Alan stirred, watching as she reached for her phone before even opening her eyes. The device had become like an extension of her being, a direct line to her real life. Her life with Boney morning darling, she mumbled, already scrolling through her messages. I need to take a call with the Singapore office. Boney wants to discuss the merger parameters before their market opens, of course. He does, Aaron replied, his voice carefully neutral. Alan's didn't even notice the edge in his tone. She was already heading into the office, phone pressed to her ear. Boney, yes, I've reviewed those numbers. The moment the office door closed, Aaron began executing his plan with mechanical precision. He opened Alan's closet. Each designer piece, the Chanel suits, the Aries scarves, the Christian Louboutin shoes, went into her LS Vuitton suitcases. He handled each item with care, folding and arranging them as if packing for a normal trip. The jewelry came next, the Cartier bracelet he bought for their 3rd anniversary, the Tiffany necklace from Christmas, the Van Cleef and AR Pels earrings she'd insisted she needed for a company gala, a gala where she'd spent the entire evening by Boney's side. Each piece went into its original box. Then, into the suitcase that in the bathroom, he packed her expensive creams and perfumes. The bottle of Tom Ford perfume caught his eye. He noticed she'd been wearing it more often lately. Had that been for Boney too? He placed it in a suitcase case with the others, his movements precise and controlled. When everything was packed, he called the resort's concierge. This is Mr. Chun in the presidential suite, he said, his voice low and steady. I need a career service, something discreet and reliable. Money is no object, of course. Mr. Chun, may I ask the destination? Aaron gave them Boney Thompson's home address, the one he'd seen on countless expense reports and meeting invitations. The packages need to arrive today. I'll pay whatever premium is necessary. We have a premium service that can arrange immediate transport, sir. Shall I send someone up to collect the items? Not yet. Give me 1 hour. Next, he called his lawyer back in Seattle. James Patterson had handled all his company's legal matters and had become something of a friend over the years. James, it's Aaron. Chun, Aaron, aren't you supposed to be on vacation? The vacation's over. Aaron's voice was cold. I need you to prepare divorce papers in a restraining order immediately. I'll send you the evidence. Within the hour, there was a pause on the other end. That's serious. She's been having an affair with her boss. I have proof. Boney Thompson, the CEO of Global Dynamics. Yes, Aaron's grip tightened on the phone. I want everything ready by the time I return, and James, make it brutal. No mercy. The lawyer caught the steel in his voice. I'll have everything ready. Send me what you have. And Aaron, I'm sorry, don't be. Just make her pay. Aaron ended the call and sat down at the suite's desk. He opened his laptop and began downloading every text, email, and phone record between Alan's and Boney. Years of working in tech had taught him how to find digital breadcrumbs, and Alan's had left plenty. That he found hotel receipts for rooms booked during business conferences, restaurant charges for intimate dinners when he'd been working late, phone records showing hours of late night calls. Each piece of evidence was another nail in the coffin of his marriage. He compiled everything into a detailed document complete with timestamps and locations. Then he sent it all to James, copying himself on a secure server. As he hit send, he heard Alan's key card in the door. She walked in, phone still pressed to her ear, talking to Boney. The projections look good for Q3, especially if she stopped short at the sight of her packed luggage. I'll call you back. Aaron stood slowly, turning to face his wife. The morning sun streaming through the windows cast half his face in shadow. Your things are packed, he said, his voice devoid of emotion. I've arranged for them to be delivered to Boney's house. I assume you know the address. After all, you've spent enough time there. Alan's face went pale. Aaron, what are you talking about? Why are my things packed? Don't. The word cut through the air like a blade. I heard everything. Alan's your phone call last night. Every single word. She took a step back, her designer handbag slipping from her shoulder. You were awake. I heard you call me a naive loser. Heard you laugh about how I'm paying for this vacation while you're enjoying Boney's stick. Those were your exact words, weren't they? Aaron, please, I can explain. Save it. He held up his hand. The marriage is over. A career will be here in 20 minutes for your bad. You can either leave with them or security will escort you out. Either way, you're not staying here. Alan's shock gave way to calculation. Her face transformed, adopting the vulnerable expression she'd used so many times to get her way. She stepped toward him, her eyes filling with tears. Baby, please, it was a mistake, a moment of weakness. Our marriage means everything to me. The last 5 years have been a lie. Aaron's voice remained steady. I was just a convenient stepping stone, the naive tech guy you could manipulate while you built your real life with Boney. That's not true. She reached for him, but he stepped back. Aaron, we can work through this. We can get counseling. I'll quit my Job cut all ties with Boney. Please just give me another chance. Aaron looked at her, really looked at her. He saw past the perfect makeup, the calculated tears, the practiced vulnerability. He saw that the woman who had laughed at him behind his back, who had taken his love and trust and twisted them into weapons. No, he said, simply, we're done. The divorce papers are being drawn up as we speak. Don't bother trying to contest them. I have everything. The texts, the emails, the hotel receipts, every single piece of evidence of your affair. The tears dried up instantly. Alan's face hardened into something ugly. You're making a mistake. You need me, Aaron. Who are you without me? Just another awkward tech nerd who got lucky with a startup. Better an awkward tech nerd than a cheating gold digger, he replied calmly. At least I built something real. What have you built? Alan's a life of lies. Her hand flew up as if to slap him, but Aaron caught her wrist before she could make contact. Don't, he said quietly. You've done enough damage. A knock at the door announced the courier's arrival. Aaron released her wrist and opened it, signed the necessary papers, and watched as Alan's carefully packed life was wheeled away. Your next move, he said, turning back to her, is to call Boney. Tell him to expect delivery of your things, though. I suspect you'll find him less enthusiastic about your relationship. Once it's dragged into the light, you wouldn't dare expose this. Alan's hiss. Think of the scandal, the damage to both our reputations. My reputation can survive being a betrayed husband. Can Boney survive being exposed as a CEO who sleeps with his subordinates? Can yours? The blood drained from Sophia's face as the implication sank in her phone began to ring. Boney's ringtone. She stared at it, then at Aaron, trapped between her crumbling present and her uncertain future. Get out, Aaron said quietly. Your key card won't work after today. Any attempts to contact me will go through my lawyer. Alan's grabbed her phone and hand back, her movements jerky and uncertain. At the door, she turned back. One last time, you'll regret this, Aaron. You'll never find anyone like me. That's the point, he replied, and closed the door in her face. Alone in the presidential suite, Aaron walked to the floor to ceiling windows. The ocean stretched endlessly before him, its surface glittering with possibilities. He felt lighter, as if he'd shed a weight he hadn't known he was carrying. The naive, trusting Aaron Chan was gone. To eye in his place stood a man who would never be deceived again. The Seattle rain drummed against the Florida ceiling windows of Aaron's downtown office, creating a steady rhythm that matched his heartbeat. His fingers hovered over the keyboard as he stared at the email that would destroy Boney Thompson's career. 2 weeks had passed since the Maldives, and he'd spent every moment preparing for this day. With meticulous precision, his laptop screen displayed the shareholders' meeting schedule for Global Dynamics, a schedule that had required significant effort and resources to obtain. The meeting was set for 10 a.m., less than an hour away. Everything was in place. That a soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Marcus stood in the doorway, a cup of coffee in each hand. His lead developer's usually casual demeanor had been replaced by obvious concern. Thought you might need this, Marcus said, placing one cup on Aaron's desk. You've been here since 5? Thanks. Aaron took a sip, appreciating the perfect land. Marcus had been with him since the early days, when their entire company consisted of 3 developers working out of a garage. He was one of the few people Aaron still trusted completely. The team's asking questions, Marcus said, settling into one of the chairs across from Aaron's desk. They've noticed something's up. The divorce rumors are spreading. Aaron's jaw tightened. What have they heard? Nothing concrete, but Alan's been calling the office daily. Yesterday, she got through to Rachel in accounting, tried to convince her it was an emergency. Marcus leaned forward. You sure about this, boss? Once you pull this trigger, already pulled it, Aaron replied, his voice steady. This is just a fallout. He turned his laptop around, showing Marcus the email chain. See for yourself, Marcus whistled low as he read. Jesus, you've got everything. The hotel receipts, the expense reports, the messages. He looked up. How long did this take to compile? Every night since we got back. Amazing what people leave behind in their digital footprint when they think no one's looking. Aaron's smile held no warmth, especially when they get careless. Alan's been calling again, Marcus said after a moment. 3 times this morning. Says she needs to talk to you, that it's urgent. What did you tell her? Same thing. As always, all communication goes through your lawyer. Marcus hesitated. She was crying this time. Said something about Boney cutting her off. That you don't understand what you're doing. A cold smile crossed Aaron's face. Of course, he did. The moment things get difficult, men like Boney Thompson protect themselves first. Let me guess. She tried to play the victim. Said she made a terrible mistake and needs your help. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Look, boss, I know it's not my place, but are you sure you want to go? Nuclear the press will be all over this. Good. Aaron stood walking to the window. The rain had an iffied sheets of water cascading down the glass. Let them see exactly who Bonnie Thompson and my wife really are. The phone on Aaron's desk buzzed. It was James Patterson, his lawyer. Everything set, James said, without preamble. Security will let you into the shareholders meeting. My contact on the board confirms all key players will be present. He paused. But, Aaron, are you absolutely certain about this going public? Means no going back once this hits the news. Good. Aaron's voice was steel. I don't want to weigh back. Alan's lawyer reached out again. They're offering a quiet divorce, generous terms, no public accusations, no mess. Aaron laughed, but there was no humor in it. They're scared. Good. Aaron. James's voice softened slightly. I've been your lawyer for 5 years. I've watched you build your company from nothing. Are you sure you want to risk everything for revenge? This isn't about revenge, James. Aaron turned back to his desk, picking up a framed photo from their wedding day. Alan's smile looked different to him now, calculated rather than loving. This is about justice, about consequences. The SEC will get involved once the insider trading allegations come out. This could get ugly. It's already ugly. I'm just making it public. Aaron set the photo face down. Is everything in place for the meeting? Yes. But Aaron, then we're done here. I'll see you at 11. He ended the call and stood adjusting his perfectly tailored suit. It was Armani, one of many purchases Alan's had insisted on during their marriage. Today it felt like armor. Hold down the fort. He told Marcus this might take a while. Aaron. Marcus stood, concern evident on his face. Whatever happens in there, you've got people in your corner. The team's behind you. For the first time that morning, Aaron's expression softened slightly. I know, thanks. Marcus. The elevator ride down to the lobby was silent, giving Aaron time to review his mental checklist. The USB drive in his pocket contained everything, every message, every receipt, every damning piece of evidence he'd collected. His phone held the recordings, and his lawyer had copies of everything ready to be released to the press at a moment's notice. Outside, the rain had somehow intensified. Aaron's driver, Michael, was waiting with an umbrella. Traffic's heavy on Fifth, Sir, Michael said as he opened the car door. But we'll get you there with Tom DePere. Thanks, Michael. Aaron settled into the back seat, watching Seattle's gray skyline scroll past. His phone buzzed with a text from Alan's. Please don't do this. We could talk about this. Bonnie's wife doesn't deserve this public humiliation. Think about their children. Aaron smiled grimly. The text confirmed what he suspected. Bonnie had already told Alan's about the upcoming shareholders meeting. They were scared, scrambling to stop what was coming. Too late. Another text followed. I still love you. What we had was real. Please don't throw it all away. Aaron's thumb hovered over the block button, but he stayed his hand. Let her panic. Let her feel a fraction of the uncertainty and fear she caused him. The global dynamics building loomed ahead, its glass facade reflecting the stormy sky. At 40 stories, it was one of Seattle's most impressive corporate headquarters, a testament to Bonnie Thompson's success. By the end of the day, that success would be in ruins. Michael pulled up to the main entrance. Good luck, sir, whatever you're doing in there. Thanks, Michael. Wait here, this won't take long. The lobby was bustling with morning activity. Aaron walked through security with practical confidence, nodding to the guard who'd been well compensated to expect him. His shoes clicked against the polished marble floor as he headed for the executive elevator. Mr. Chin, a young woman in a sharp business suit, intercepted him. I'm Amanda Torres, Mr. Thompson's executive assistant. I'm afraid you don't have clearance for the executive floor. Check again, Aaron said, calmly handling her a business card. I believe you'll find I'm expected. Amanda's eyes widened slightly as she read whatever message had been attached to his name in the system. I see. My apologies. Sir, please WR this way. The executive elevator opened directly into a reception area designed to impress. Original artwork adorned the walls, and the carpet probably cost more than some cars. Through the glass walls, Aaron could see the shareholders filing into the main conference room. Bonnie Thompson stood at the head of the table, looking every bit the successful CEO in his bespoke suit. He was mid-sentence when Aaron walked in, radio aiding the same. A confidence that had helped him build his tech company from nothing, and our Q3 projections show significant growth in the Asian markets. Boney stopped abruptly, his face draining of color. Mr. Chun, this is a private meeting, is it? Aaron's voice carried across the suddenly silent room. I thought affairs affecting company value should involve all interested parties. The pun wasn't lost on Boney, whose face tightened with barely controlled rage. Sakura, move this man immediately. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Aaron said calmly, pulling out the USB drive. Not unless you want to explain to your shareholders why you're so eager to avoid discussing Certain improprieties, one of the shareholders, an elderly man with steel gray hair, leaned forward. What's the meaning of this, Thompson? Nothing, Richard, just a minor, Aaron interrupted, turning the USB drive between his fingers. I wouldn't call systematically abusing your position to pursue affairs with subordinates minor, would you, Boney? Or using company resources to facilitate those affairs? Or perhaps we should discuss the insider trading. The room erupted in murmurs. Boney's face flushed red, a vein pulsing in his temple. These are baseless accusations from a bitter husband. Security. Before anyone calls security, Aaron addressed the room, holding up the drive. You might want to see what's on this. Detailed records of hotel stays, expense reports used to cover up romantic dinners, explicit text messages. He locked eyes with Boney. Your shareholders might be interested in how company resources were used to facilitate your affair with my wife. These are baseless accusations, Boney sputtered, but his eyes kept darting to the USB drive. Richard, the elderly shareholder who'd spoken earlier, stood up, his steel gray hair and impeccable suit spoke of old money and power. Let me see that drive, young man. Richard, you can't be serious, Boney protested. We can't allow an outsider to disrupt. Shut up, Boney. Richard's voice cracked like a whip. I've known you for 20 years, and I've never seen you this nervous. He took the drive from Aaron and inserted it into the conference room's computer system. The large screen at the end of the room flickered to life. The evidence was damning. Hotel receipts showing rooms booked under Boney's corporate account, restaurant bills for intimate dinners charged to the company card, phone records displaying patterns of late-night calls, text messages that left nothing to the imagination, photos of Boney and Alan's entering and leaving hotels, time-stamped and geotagged. Jesus Christ, Boney, another shareholder muttered. What were you thinking? It's not what it looks like, Boney began, but Aaron cut him off. Tell them about the Maldives, Boney. Tell them how you coach my wife on which suite to demand, knowing I'd pay for it while you two laugh behind my back. Aaron's voice was deadly calm. Tell them about the late-night phone calls where you two mock me. Or should I play the recordings? The color drained from Boney's face. You're bluffing. There are no recordings. Aaron pulled out his phone and pressed play. Alan's voice filled the room. He's such a loser, Boney, a naive, pathetic loser who thinks working hard and being nice is enough. Boney's response followed. That's why you're perfect for me, baby. You understand how the game is really played. The recording ended. The silence in the room was deafening. There's more, Aaron said quietly, much more, including some interesting emails about how you two discussed using insider information to make personal trades. That's a lie, Boney shouted, but his voice cracked. The conference room door burst open. Alan stood there breathless, her designer outfit slightly disheveled. Her usually perfect makeup showed signs of running, suggesting she'd been crying. Aaron, stop this, she pleaded. You're destroying everything. No, Alan's, he replied calmly. You and Boney destroyed everything. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. She took a step toward him, her hands outstretched. Baby, please, we can work this out. I've left Boney. I realize now that what we had was special. What we had was a lie. Aaron's voice cut through her words. And now everyone knows that you don't understand. She tried again, her voice breaking. Boney promised me things. He manipulated me. I was weak. But I never stopped loving you. Aaron laughed, the sound harsh and unfamiliar. Never stop loving me. Is that what you were thinking when you were laughing about me with your lover, when you were spending my money while sleeping with him? It wasn't like that. Alan's grabbed his arm. Please, Aaron, we can start over. I'll do anything. He removed her hand, as if it were something contaminated. The time for that is long past. Alan's, you made your choices. Now you get to live with them. Mr. Thompson, Richard's voice cut through the drama, ice cold and precise. I suggest you call your lawyer. The board will need to meet immediately to discuss your position with the company. Boney's face had gone ashing. Richard, please, my family should have thought about them before you started sleeping with your employees and discussing insider trading. Richard turned to the other shareholders. I move for an immediate vote of no confidence. You can't do this. Boney slammed his fist on the table. I built this company, and now you've given us no choice but to protect it from you. Richard glanced at Aaron. Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Mr. Chan. I assume your lawyer has copies of all this evidence. Of course. Aaron smiled coldly, along with several major news outlets, in case anyone was thinking of trying to bury this. Alan's made one last desperate attempt, falling to her knees and grabbing Aaron's leg. Please don't do this to us. I love you. I'll do anything to make this right. Aaron stepped back, watching her crumple to the floor. Get up, Alan's, you're embarrassing yourself. Aaron, please, she sobbed. Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? That's not my problem anymore. He turned to the shareholders. I'll leave you to your meeting. My lawyer will be in touch regarding the company's liability in this matter. Aaron, wait, Alan's called after him as he walked toward the door. You'll never find anyone who understands you like I do. He paused at the threshold. That's because you never understood me at all, Alan's. You just understood how to use me. He looked back at Boney, who sat slumped in his chair, all pretense of power gone. Goodbye, D. Boney. I hope it was worth it. As he walked out, he could hear Boney's voice rising in panic behind him. Richard, please, we can explain everything. The company's stock will tank if this gets out. Save it for the SEC investigation. Boney came Richard's reply. Security, please escort Mr. Thompson and Mrs. Chan from the building, and someone call our PR team. We're going to need them in the elevator. Aaron's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. News sites are already picking up the story. It's going viral. Twitter's exploding. Aaron smiled. By the time he reached the lobby, his phone was flooded with notifications, news alerts, text messages, emails. The story was spreading faster than even he had anticipated. Boney Thompson's fall from grace would be spectacular, and Alan's would go down with him. The lobby was already showing signs of chaos. Security guards were positioning themselves near the entrance, and he could see news vans pulling up outside. His timing had been perfect. The morning news cycle was just beginning. Michael was waiting with the car, his expression concerned. Sir, there are reporters gathering outside. Take me back to the office. Michael, the long way. As they pulled away from the curb, Aaron's phone rang. It was James. It's done. His lawyer said board voted to terminate Boney effective immediately. Alan's been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Want me to start circulating the divorce papers? Do it, Aaron replied. And James, make sure every news outlet knows exactly why Boney Thompson is no longer CEO of Global Dynamics. Already done. This is going to be a bloodbath. Good, Aaron said. They deserve every second of it. Through the car window, he watched Seattle's skyline slide past. The rain had stopped and sunlight was breaking through the clouds. It felt appropriate. Somehow the storm ending just as his revenge reached its climax. His phone buzzed with another text from Alan's. Please, I have nowhere to go. My parents won't take my calls. David's blocked my number. I need you. Aaron blocked her number without replying. Let her feel what it was like to have everything stripped away. Let her experience the emptiness of betrayal. The world would soon know the truth about Boney Thompson and Alan's Chun. Let them try to salvage their reputations from this wreckage. Let them experience what it felt like to have their lives torn apart by betrayal. Aaron had no more tears to shed, no more mercy to give. He had given them exactly what they deserved, a taste of their own medicine served cold and without remorse. The naive man who had loved and trusted Alan's was gone. In his place sat someone harder. Someone who understood that in this world mercy was a weakness he could no longer afford. Back at his office, the atmosphere was electric. Employees huddled around their computers, watching the story unfold in real time. As Aaron stepped off the elevator, conversations hushed, and all eyes turned to him. Marcus met him halfway to his office. You might want to see this. He held up his tablet, displaying a breaking news headline: Global Dynamics so ousted amid scandal affairs, misuse of company funds and insider trading allegations rock Seattle tech giant. How bad is it? Aaron asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. Global Dynamics stock is in free fall. Trading might be halted soon. Marcus followed him into his office. Boney Thompson's wife just released a statement through her lawyer. She's filing for divorce and demanding half of everything. Aaron settled behind his desk, a grim satisfaction settling over him and Alan's. Nothing official yet, but social media is brutal. Someone leaked those recordings you played at the meeting. They're everywhere. Marcus hesitated. Security called. She tried to get into the building about 20 minutes ago, said she needed to talk to you. What did you tell them? That her access has been revoked and to escort her out if she returns. Marcus sat down across from him. The press is starting to gather downstairs. They want a statement. Aaron nodded, pulling up his email. Have PR prepare something brief. No direct quotes from me. Just confirmed that I discovered my wife's affair with Boney Thompson and reported corporate misconduct to the proper authorities, and Alan's is no longer my concern. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Boney. You've destroyed everything. I hope you're happy. Aaron typed back a single response. Check your company email. The board wants a resignation letter within the hour. He blocked the number before Boney could reply. The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and phone calls. James called twice more with updates. Global Dynamics stock had indeed been halted after falling 30%. The SEC had announced a formal investigation. 3 board members had resigned. Around 6, Marcus knocked on his door again. "You should see this." He handed Aaron his tablet. On the screen was a video from a local news station. Alan stood outside the Global Dynamics building, tears streaming down her face as reporters shouted questions. "Mrs. Chun, did you know about the insider trading? How long was the affair going on? Is it true you mock your husband while spending his money?" Alan's looked directly into the camera, her mascara running. "Aaron, if you're watching this, please, I made a terrible mistake. I'll do anything to make it right. Please just talk to me." Aaron handed the tablet back to Marcus. "Have security double their patrols tonight. She might try to come here next." "Already done." Marcus studied his boss carefully. "You don't feel anything watching her like that?" "I feel like justice is being served." Aaron turned back to his computer. "She chose this path. Now she gets to walk it." As night fell over Seattle, Aaron remained in his office, watching the fallout continue to spread. Global news networks had picked up the story. Bonnie Thompson's name was trending worldwide. Alan's social media accounts had been flooded with angry comments before being deleted entirely. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Chin, there's a Mrs. Thompson here to see you." Aaron froze. Bonnie's wife. He hadn't expected this. Sent her, and Catherine Thompson walked into his office like a queen entering her court. Unlike Alan's emotional display, she was perfectly composed in an expensive suit. Her graying hair immaculately styled. "Mr. Chun," she said, taking a seat without waiting for an invitation. "I believe we have some things to discuss." "Mrs. Thompson, I'm sorry about..." She held up a hand, cutting him off. "Don't I've suspected Bonnie's infidelities for years. I simply lacked the evidence to act." She placed a leather portfolio on his desk. "I want copies of everything you have. My lawyers will make it worth your while." Aaron studied her for a moment. "You don't seem surprised that my husband was sleeping with a younger woman." "No, surprised that he was stupid enough to get caught." Slightly, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I've spent 30 years building a life with Bonnie. Now I intend to take exactly half of everything we built. Your evidence will help ensure that happens. I'll have my lawyer send everything to yours." Aaron leaned back. "May I ask why you came in person?" Catherine stood, smoothing her already perfect suit. "To thank you, Mr. Chan." Bonnie's arrogance needed to be checked. "You've done what I couldn't or wouldn't do myself." She headed for the door, but paused. "Oh, and if you see your wife, tell her she wasn't the first. She won't be the last." Bonnie discards his toys when they become inconvenient. After she left, Aaron sat in the growing darkness, reflecting on the day's events. His phone had finally stopped buzzing with notifications. The initial shock was wearing off, giving way to the steady drum beat of scandal that would continue for weeks or months to come. His intercom buzzed one final time. "Mr. Chin, your ex-wife is in the lobby again. Security wants to know what to do." Aaron closed his eyes for a moment. He could picture her down there, desperate and alone, her perfect world crumbling around her, just as it crumbled in that hotel room in the Maldives. "Tell them to escort her out," he said finally, "and send a memo to all employees. Alan's Chun is not to be admitted to the building under any circumstances. No exceptions." "Yes, sir. Should I call a car for you?" "No, I think I'll stay a while longer." He turned back to his computer, where news headlines continued to roll in. Global Dynamics and Crisis CEOs. Affair leads to broader investigation. Tech world shocked by corporate scandal. Insider trading probe expands as SEC demands documents. Each headline was another nail in the coffin of Bonnie and Alan's reputations. Each story spread their humiliation wider, deeper. It was everything he had planned, for everything he had wanted. Why didn't he feel more satisfied? Because this wasn't about satisfaction. He realized this was about justice, about consequences, about making sure that actions had repercussions that couldn't be smoothed over with tears and apologies. His phone buzzed one final time. A text from James. "Just filed the divorce papers. It's official. You're free." Aaron looked out at the Seattle skyline, at the lights twinkling in the darkness. Free from lies, free from manipulation, free from the weight of a love that had never been real. The naive man who had loved Alan's was truly gone. In his place stood someone stronger, someone who understood that sometimes justice required a hard heart and a steady hand. Let the world call it revenge. He called it karma. 6 months had passed since the shareholders' meeting that destroyed Bonnie Thompson's career. Seattle's winter had given way to spring, bringing with it new opportunities and a transformed landscape, both literally and figuratively. Aaron's tech company had grown exponentially, partly due to his handling of the scandal. Where others saw a bitter husband seeking revenge, the tech community saw a CEO who wouldn't tolerate corruption, even at a personal The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Aaron's new office, larger and more impressive than his previous one. The view had improved too. From the 50th floor, he could see all of downtown Seattle, the Space Needle, and on clear days like today, the snow-capped peak of Mount Rainier in the distance. Aaron sat at his desk reviewing quarterly reports while Seattle's tech industry buzzed with news of his company's latest success. His latest security protocol had caught the attention of major players in Silicon Valley. On his desk, the Seattle Times business section lay open to an article about global dynamics continuing fall from grace. Former CEO Bonnie Thompson faces federal charges in expanding investigation. The article detailed the mounting evidence against Bonnie, evidence Aaron had meticulously collected and strategic released over the past 6 months. The investigation had expanded beyond the original charges, uncovering years of financial misconduct. That a knock at his door interrupted his reading. Marcus entered, tablet in hand. His casual attire a stark contrast to the formal atmosphere of the executive floor. "You're going to want to see this," Marcus said, placing the tablet on Aaron's desk. His expression carried a mix of concern and discomfort. The screen showed security footage from the lobby. Alan stood there arguing with the guards. Even through the grainy video, Aaron could see how different she looked. Gone were the designer clothes in perfect makeup that had once been her armor. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back without styling. Dark circles under her eyes spoke of sleepless nights. "Third time this week," Marcus said, settling into one of the chairs. "She's getting more persistent today." She tried to convince the receptionist she had a scheduled meeting. "What exactly does she want?" Aaron asked, his voice carefully neutral. "Says she needs to talk to you about a job. Apparently no one's hiring her after the scandal." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "She told security she's been blacklisted from every major company in Seattle. Even the smaller firms won't touch her. That tends to happen when you're involved in corporate espionage and insider trading." Aaron's voice held no sympathy. "She looks rough, boss, like really rough." Security said she was wearing the same clothes yesterday. "Not my problem." Aaron turned back to his reports. "Have security escort her out, and Marcus, make sure they know she doesn't get in. Ever no exceptions, no matter what story she tells." Done. Marcus stood but hesitated at the door. "The board meetings in 10 minutes. They're excited about the expansion plans. Funding secured for the new AI division." As Marcus left, Aaron gathered his materials for the meeting. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Please, I'm running out of options. No one will hire me. I'm facing eviction. Just 5 minutes of your time. I have nowhere else to turn." It was Alan's. He could almost hear the desperation in her words. He blocked the number without replying, adding it to the growing list of numbers she'd used to try to reach him. The walk to the conference room took him past rows of busy developers there, keyboards clicking as they worked on the projects that had made his company Seattle's rising star. Employees nodded respectfully as he passed, their eyes showing a mixture of admiration and weariness. The scandal had changed how people saw him. No longer the nice guy CEO, but someone who wouldn't hesitate to destroy those who crossed him. The boardroom was already full when he arrived. The expansion plans had drawn every major investor to the table. Aaron took his place at the head of the table, the Seattle skyline framing him through the windows behind his chair. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice commanding attention. "The numbers speak for themselves. Our security division has exceeded all projections for the quarter." He clicked through slides showing exponential growth, new contracts, and market expansion. The board members leaned forward, their expressions hungry. "Remarkable turnaround time on the new security protocols." Richard Blackwood, his newest board member, commented, "The government contract loan will triple our revenue next quarter. The team's been working overtime." Aaron replied, clicking to the next slide. "We're ahead of schedule and under budget on all major projects in the Silicon Valley expansion." Another board member asked, "We close on the San Francisco office next week. Recruitment is already underway." "In your personal life?" Sarah Chun, no relation, asked carefully. She was his oldest board member, someone who backed him from the start. "The press has been asking about new relationships. There's been speculation. My personal life is private." Aaron, cutting firmly, "The company is my focus. Now nothing else matters." The meeting continued for another hour, each projection more impressive than the last. When it finally ended, Aaron returned to his office to find James Patterson, his lawyer, waiting. "Thought you'd want to know," James said without preamble, his expression grim. "Bonnie Thompson took a plea deal this morning." Aaron settled behind his desk. "Details? 3 years minimum security plus fines. The insider trading charges stuck, but they dropped some of The lesser counts. James pulled out a thick folder. The SEC's investigation found patterns going back years. Your evidence was just the tip of the iceberg, and Global Dynamics stock still down 60% from pre-INA levels. They're restructuring, but the damage is done. 3 more board members resigned like last week. James hesitated. There's more. Allen's lawyer reached out again this morning. Aaron's jaw tightened. What does she want now? She's willing to sign away any claim to your company in exchange for a settlement, a one-time payment to help her get back on her feet. James opened the folder. She's in pretty dire straits. Aaron, her lawyer, shared some financial documents. No deals. Aaron's voice was steel. She gets nothing beyond what the law requires. She's desperate. Word. If she's been sleeping on friends' couches, borrowing money for food, her credit cards are maxed out, and her parents. James trailed off her parents. What they lost most of their savings in Global Dynamics stock. They were heavy investors in Boney's company when it tanked. James spread his hands. They can't help her anymore. Not my concern. Aaron turned to his computer. Was there anything else? James sighed. Her lawyer mentioned something about a book deal. Several publishers are interested in her side of the story. That got Aaron's attention. What kind of book? The usual revenge porn. Poor misunderstood woman, manipulative boss, cold husband who wouldn't forgive a single mistake. They're pitching it as a hash-meat story. Powerful men using and discarding women in corporate America. James watched Aaron carefully. Want me to handle it? Aaron smiled coldly. Sent her lawyer a copy of the non-disclosure agreement she signed during our divorce. Remind them about the penalties for violation. Make it clear that I'll bankrupt any publisher who touches that book. Already done. One more thing. Catherine Thompson's legal team sent over a thank you. Your evidence helped her take Boney for everything he had. The divorce settlement was finalized yesterday. Good. Aaron turned back to his work. If that's all. Actually, James pulled out one more document. There's something you should see. Boney Thompson tried to commit suicide in jail last week. Aaron's typing stopped. What pills they pumped his stomach in time, but it's bad. Aaron, his lawyers requesting transfer to a psychiatric facility. For a moment something flickered across Aaron's face. Not quite sympathy, but perhaps recognition of how far the mighty had fallen. Then it was gone, replaced by his usual mask of indifference. Send flowers to his ex-wife, he said. Fine. Finally, with a note. Karma comes for everyone eventually. After James left, Aaron stood at his window looking out over the city. He'd come to dominate. His reflection showed a different man than the one who discovered his wife's betrayal 6 months ago. His suit was bespoke now, an Italian cut that spoke of real wealth rather than aspiration. His posture was straighter, his presence more commanding, but it was his eyes that had changed the most. They held a heart hardness that hadn't been there before, a coldness that made even his closest associates uncomfortable. Sometimes his intercom bust. Mr. Chun, there's a situation in the lobby you need to be aware of. Aaron clicked the security feed. Allen's wasn't alone this time. She brought her parents, probably hoping their presence would force a meeting. Robert and Eleanor Chun, once so proud and dismissive of their daughter's tech nerd husband, now looked diminished. Robert's perfectly tailored suits had been replaced by off-the-rack wear, and Eleanor's designer handbag was noticeably last season's model. Have security remove all of them, he instructed, and call the police if they resist. Sir, his assistant hesitated. Mr. Chun, your former father-in-law, he's asking to speak to you privately. Says it's about Allen's mental state. Aaron watched the feed as security approached the group through the high-quality cameras. He could hear their conversation. Please. Robert Chin's voice cracked with desperation. Just 5 minutes, Aaron. She's not well. She needs help, sir, the security guard said firmly. You need to leave the premises. You don't understand. Eleanor broke in her mascara. Running. She tried to last week. She, the woman, dissolved into tears. That Aaron's finger hovered over the intercom button. For a moment the memory of happier times flashed through his mind. Family dinners, holiday celebration, the way Robert had finally started teaching him golf, how Eleanor had helped decorate their first home. Then he remembered their faces at his wedding, their barely concealed disdain, their constant reminders that he wasn't quite good enough for their daughter, how they'd encourage Allen's expensive taste, her social climbing, her connection to Boney Thompson. He pressed the button. Remove them, all of them, and revoke any remaining access their credentials might have. Aaron Allen's voice carried through the feed as security took her arms. Please, I know you can see me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The security guards led her toward the exit. Her parents following behind. Eleanor was crying into a handkerchief while Robert's shoulders slumped into defeat. Aaron turned off the feed and returned to his work. An hour later his phone buzzed with an email from an anonymous account. You've One okay you've won completely bony. S in jail I'm broke my reputation is ruined my own parents can barely afford to help me anymore what more do you want I made a mistake a terrible unforgivable mistake but this punishment is worse than the crime please Aaron I'm begging you help me if any part of you ever loved me. He deleted the email. Without replying on his desk another newspaper headline caught his tech innovator Aaron Shun named entrepreneur of the year success is the best revenge the article detailed his company's mid-year rise praising his innovative leadership and strategic vision. There was a quote from a former employee of Global Dynamics. Mr. Chin showed us what real leadership looks like. He exposed corruption at great personal cost. That's the kind of CEO people want to work for. His phone buzzed again. His assistant this time, sir, the team from Microsoft is here for the partnership meeting. Send them in, as he prepared for the meeting that would further cement his company's success. Aaron reflected on the past 6 months. His company had grown from a promising startup to a major player in the tech industry. The scandal that destroyed Global Dynamics had paradoxically boosted his reputation. He was now seen as a crusader against corporate corruption, someone who valued integrity over personal relationships. The Microsoft executives filed and led by their VP of Strategic Partnerships. The meeting that followed would send a deal worth hundreds of millions expanding Aaron's empire into new territories. Your security protocols are exactly what we've been looking for, the VP said, scanning the contract, and frankly the way you handled the Global Dynamics situation impressed a lot of people. Integrity matters in this business. We pride ourselves on transparency, Aaron replied, his voice smooth. Trust once broken can never be fully restored. After the meeting, as the sun set over Seattle, Aaron received one final text from Alan's. I saw your article. Congratulations on your success. I wish things could have been different. I really did love you in my way. I'm sorry I didn't love you better. The girl you met at that charity gala, she wasn't all fake. She really did fall for the awkward tech guy with the bad jokes. I just lost my way, lost myself. I know you'll never forgive me, but please know that I'll always regret what I did, not because of the consequences, but because I hurt the one person who truly loved me. Aaron read the message twice before blocking this number 2, adding it to the dozens before it. Outside his window, Seattle skyline sparkled in the spring sunshine. His empire was growing, his success undeniable. He had emerged from betrayal stronger, harder, more successful. Let Alan's beg, let her feel the weight of her choices. He had given her exactly what she deserved, a life without the wealth and status she'd valued more than love and loyalty. Let her remember in her darkest moments that she had once had everything and thrown it away for a man who abandoned her the moment things got difficult. The naive man who believed in second chances was dead. In his place stood someone who understood that sometimes the best revenge wasn't just success, it was watching your enemies fall while you rose above them, untouchable and unforgiving. That the last light of day faded from his office. Aaron smiled. It wasn't a warm smile, but it was real deal. He had won, and he would keep winning. Every deal he closed, every milestone his company reached, was another reminder to those who had betrayed him he didn't need them. He never had that die in the end. That was the sweetest revenge of all.